Hello, dear students. Welcome to the online classes presented by Sajan Global School. I am Mr. Faruk Shaikh, and today I am going to teach you Chapter 4, second part, Literary Heritage of India. Let us start. Second part. So, in the previous part, I was taught to you about the Vedas, that is the oldest Veda, Rig Veda, and the Ved which is considered to the music, the Samved, Atharvaved, Yajurved, and also I taught you about the Upanishad. Now today I am going to teach you about the Brahmanical literature. Let us study about the Brahmanical literature. So the Brahmanical literature, so many Brahmanical epics were composed to understand the meaning of Vedic literature, and the many of the Brahmins, gurus, teachers, they have composed this Brahmanical literature to understand the meaning of Vedic literature, to understand the Vedas. Any critical appreciations appreciations based on Vedas composed in the poetic form are included in the Brahmanical literature. They are composed in a poetic form. Okay, so anybody can understand very easily. The Vedic literature and directive principle regarding behavior have been explained broadly. Okay, so in the Brahmanic literature, that all the information about the Vedas, okay, and the directive principles which are the principles of the Vedas, they are also explained in the Brahmanical literature very broadly. Then the Aranyaks, okay, maybe you have learned this word, that Aranya, Ran, it is a desert, but when we add a before the any words, so that is become the opposite words in the Gujarati. Okay, so the run, it is opposite is the aranya. So run opposite is the forest, jungle, yani कि run का opposite jungle है. So aranya means jungle, and here are the aranyaks. It is called aranyaks. So aranyas used to spend their last phase of life in aranyaks. Okay, Aryans in the our ancient civilization that we can see, we have studies also about the Aryans were also the most prominent civilizations in the India. They were called them Aryan, that who are the Hindus and all are. Okay, so making their ashrams in Aranyaks, in the forest, they composed literature based on the philosophy which was the result of the deep thinking. It is known as the Aranyaks. Okay, there was a ashrams that was a call, that Gruhasthashram, Vanprasthashram, okay, Balyashram, Sikshashram. So many of the ashram, four ashrams were there. Okay, so in this last stage of the life, okay, people were went to the forest, and there they made their ashrams, kutir, hut, whatever, and they stayed there. And also for their philosophy and for the deep thinking, they have written the some literature, and these literature are written in the aranya, means in the forest. That is why they are known as the aranyaks. Understood? Okay, I hope. Now the Vedangs. So, which are the literature are part of the Vedas? Literature which are related to the Vedas, they are called the Vedangs. Ved plus Angs, यानी कि जो वेदों का अंग है, component of the Vedas. So the Vedang literature deal with the religious practice and ritual, grammar, astrology, and the astronomy. This is the two word. The astrology and the astronomy both are the difference. Okay, the astrology, it is called the Jyotish Shastra, that for people who are studying our hands lines. Okay, and they are giving us the predict our future. It is called the astrology. And the astronomy, it is a study about the substance which are present in the sky, in the space, sun, moon, stars, constellations. Okay, these are all. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata are two great Indian epic. Okay, it also can be said that world largest epic is the Mahabharata. The present form of this epic can be tracked back to the 2nd century. The Ramayana has the story of Ramchandra, the king of Ayodhya. And the Ramayana, there is a one epic, and the Ramayana has a story of the Ramchandra, who was the king of the Ayodhya. The Ramayana is the smaller epic than the महाभारत, और जो रामायण है वो महाभारत से छोटा है. Okay, it is a narrate many attractive stories of the adventure, The Mahabharata is the whole world's largest epic. Okay, as I said that महाभारत इज द वर्ल्ड लार्जेस्ट एपिक, यानी कि दुनिया की सबसे बड़ा अगर कोई पोएम है, जो कविता है, महाकाव्य है, सो दैट इज अ महाभारत। हैज़ 1 लाख वर्सेस, यानी कि उसमें 1 लाख वर्सेस है। ओके, this describes the war between Kauravas and the Pandavas, or this is the story about the war between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. They both are from belongs to the same family. They were cousins, but they fought against each other. Why? To rule, to religion, धर्म की लड़ाई थी वो, सत्य और असत्य की लड़ाई थी वो। लेट अस सी। Beside it also consists of numerous stories. There is also in the Mahabharata, there is also different stories also are connected. The Bhagavad Gita a part of Mahabharata, and the Bhagavad Gita while in the war ground, battleground, that Sri Krishna giving the message to the Arjun. Okay, so and what is the message given by the Krishna to the Arjun? That is called the Bhagavad Gita. The expound the deep philosophical principle, it conveys the message of the achieving moksha or the salvation through gyan, karma, and bhakti. Moksha means when any person get the moksha, then he did not left any desire of the world. दुनिया की किसी भी चीज को उसको फिर जरूरत नहीं रहती है। He got the moksha. Okay, so that is called that moksha or the salvation that we can get through ज्ञान, through the knowledge, कर्म जो हमारे काम है, एंड भक्ति, डिवोशन, उसी से हम हासिल कर सकते हैं मोक्ष। बट दैट इज़ वाई वी शुड हैव टू बी डिवोटेड फॉर इट। ओके, हमें उसके लिए अपने आप को रेडी करना चाहिए। वी शुड हैव टू नॉट टू कीप एनी टाइम्स ऑफ द डिज़ायर्स, किसी भी चीज़ की हमें ये डिज़ायर नहीं होनी चाहिए। नो एनीथिंग, नॉट इवन फूड। ओके, वॉट एवर यू हैव टू ईट, यू हैव टू बैग इट एंड ईट। जो भी आपको खाना है, भीख मांग के आप खाओ। Always to connected with the God by bhakti. Okay, and also give to the world the knowledge of peace, that is called the salvation. After this you can get the moksha or the salvation, and that is the real meaning of the life. Okay, now both the epics of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata have been influenced millions of Indians and the literature for a long time. And the Ramayana and Mahabharata, these are the literature, and they have influenced many of the Indians, and for a long time they have implemented motivational seeds of sanskar in the Indians, and because of this many of the people also have changed their life, they motivated by this literature। okay, और उनमें भी वो कल्चर आ गया। During this period of Sanskrit literature was produced which contained a good combination of religious and worldly aspect of life. And while this is the Sanskrit literature were produced, and that time it was a contain a good combination of religious dharma and how to live a life, the worldly aspect of life. Thus, the Purans played in the important role in explaining initial Vedic religion of earlier time. And in the Puran, यानी कि जो पुराने ग्रंथ हैं, in this Puran that we can get the knowledge of the earlier religious, okay, the Vedic religious of the earlier time, यानी कि जो वैदिक रिलीजन थी, वैदिक धर्म थे, उसके बारे में भी हमें नॉलेज मिलता है। ड्यूरिंग दिस पीरियड मैनी स्कल्पचर एंड द स्मृति ग्रंथ, okay, many scripture and the smriti granth were composed. Now the scripture, the written by the hand on the Tadpatra, Bhojpatra, and the Smruti Granth, that means what? In the ancient time, that time, the students were going to the forest in the ashrams of the gurus, and there they were studying. They were getting knowledge. That time, no book, no pen. So, how did they by heart all the things, and how did they prepare? So, Shruti, Shruti and Smruti. Shruti means सुनो, and Smruti means को याद रखो, यानी कि वो सुनते थे और उसको फिर याद रखते थे। बाय रिपीटिंग एंड रिपीटिंग एंड रिपीटिंग एंड रिपीटिंग, दे विल मेमोराइज इट, एंड दिस इज द वे, दैट इज वाई मेनी ऑफ द ग्रंथ ऑल्सो आर कॉल्ड द श्रुति ग्रंथ ऑल्सो। ओके, these scriptures dealt with the science and the philosophy. For example, Kautilya's Arthashastra. The Kautilya's Arthashastra also is the very famous in the India and also in the world. Okay, the philosophy and the science about the politics is a book, and it is also politics also, and also the knowledge of the earth economy is a book of management, as well as book on various topics such as art, mathematics, and the other science. The Smriti Granth as explain the religious teaching, law, and the customs. In the Smriti Granth we also get the knowledge about the religious teaching, ओके, यानी कि धर्म का शिक्षण किस तरह से देना है, द लॉज ऑफ द रिलीजन एंड द कस्टम्स, यानी कि जो हमारे रीति रिवाज है, हाउ टू फॉलो दैम, how to we have to celebrate our festival, during the festival which god or goddess we should have to worship. So this all the informations and the teaching is given in the Smriti Granth. The earlier Buddhist literature was written in the Pali, और जो शुरुआत में सबसे पहले जो बुद्धिस्ट लिटरेचर जो लिखा गया था, that was written in the Pali language. It is divided into the three sections. It is known as the Tripitaka. This is the consist of the Sukt Pitaka, Vinay Pitaka, and Abhidhamma Pitaka. This you have to underline, students, in your textbook. So the which Buddhist literature were written in the three division, in the three section, written in the Pali language. It was divided into three section, and that three section, three to tree, Pitika, Tripitaka, Pitika, that means called the book. So Tripitaka, so it consists of the Sukta Pitika, Vinay Pitika, and Abhidhamma Pitika. Keep it in mind again: Sukta Pitika, Vinay Pitika, and Abhidhamma Pitika. Dhamma means religion, dharma. So, beside many other works were also composed in the Buddhist literature, Gupta period was known as the golden period for the growth and the development of Sanskrit poem and the dramas. And the Gupta period, Chandragupta Maurya, Samrat Asok. During these periods, it is known as the golden period for the growth and the development of Sanskrit poems and the dramas. The great writer like Kalidas, Bhavbhuti, Bharvi, Bhartahari, Banbhatta, Magh, and many other belongs to these periods of this. Kalidas is known as the all over the world, or the Kalidas is known as the all over the world. Abhignan Shakuntalam, Meghdutam, okay, Rutu Samharam. Many of these dramas and the plays are written by the Kalidas, and they are world famous. If you will going for the further studies in the college, so you will, if you have to take a subject as Sanskrit, so maybe you will get the knowledge about the Kalidas literature. Okay, here you can see that his work of the Kalidas, Kumar Sambhavam, Raghuvansavam, Meghdut, Abhigyan Sakuntala. Meghdut, do you know here the Meghdut? Meg means the rain and the Dut means the messenger. Means so while that Kalidas was the far away from his wife, so that time he sent message through the cloud, यानी कि वो बादल से अपना संदेश भिजवाता था अपनी वाइफ को. What a technology that time, can you imagine it? Okay, so that is the Avigyan Sakuntalam, okay, and the Rutu Samharam are renowned for the best topic, best poetic and dramatic style in this Sanskrit literature. This is written by the Kalidas. Do you know the Kalidas in the earlier time he was a mad person. He was cutting a branch on which he stood. ओके, यानी कि वो वही डाल को काट रहा था जिस पे वो बैठा था, जिस पे वो खड़ा था. इससे बड़ा मूर्ख कौन सा होगा? And that person, while he worshipped the goddess Kali, and Kali became the placed on the Kalidas, and she gave the blessing boom to the Kalidas, and after this, because of this, Kalidas got the Saraswati. Saraswati means Vidya, the knowledge, and he became the famous poetic writer, Sanskrit writer. Ban wrote Kadambari and Harscharit, and Ban Bhatt, which books are written by the Kalidas, they are also you to underline and do by heart. Okay, now Ban wrote the Kadambari and the Harscharit, a biography of King Hars. राजा हर्ष से उनकी पूरी बायोग्राफी लिखी हुई है बाण भट्ट ने. अदर वर्क ऑफ द पीरियड्स आर भवभूतिस, उत्तर रामचरित, भारवेश, किरात अर्जुनम, विशाखा दत्ता, मुद्रा रक्षा, सुद्रक्ष, मृच्छिकटिकम, एंड दंडिस, दस दस मुख चरित. The subject of these works were political events, romance, allegories, comedies, and the philosophy. The all the literature written by the different authors. In the all the subject, the work for the politics, event, romance, allegories, comedies, and the philosophy. It was a mixture of this all. Verses were composed in the earlier form of Gujarati language. In the course of time, Gujarati language developed and many literature works were composed in it. And the verses also were composed in the earlier form of in the Gujarati language. Gujarati language में बहुत सी कविताएं लिखी हुई है. Very famous it is written. Okay, the heritage of Gujarati literature was made prosperous by literary contribution of Narsih Mehta, Mirabai, Dayaram, Akho, Premchand, Pritam, and others who composed beautiful verses. There are many of the Gujarati writers that who has made our Gujarati literature prosperous. In this Gujarati, that we can see the songs, garba, narrative poems, and the chappas, etc. After the scholars like Narmad, Nawalram, Kisalram, Masruwala, Pannalal Patel, Umasankar Joshi, Mahipatram, Rupram Nilkant, Govardhan Ram Tripathi, and other enriched the Gujarati literature through their works. Many of the Gujarati writers have written, they have contributed for the development, for the prosperity of the Gujarati literature. And these are the all that Nawalram, Kisorlal Masruwala, Pannalal Patel, that Pannalal Patel also has written the many of the novel. You have to try find out of these all the writers. You have to find out during the vacation and read any one novel. You will get something from this. Okay, and if you are the watching movie while you will reading this novel, now that you will feeling that you are actually watching movie, you will be get interested into it. Okay, then the four Dravidian language, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and Malayalam, developed in their own scripts and literature for Dravidian language. So this is the year to keep it in mind, students, that which four languages are belongs to the Dravidian language. So these are the four languages: the Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and the Malayalam. Okay, so their own scripts and the literature. Tamil is oldest of these, with its literature belonging to early countries of the Christians era. And out of these all four, the Tamil is the oldest of these, यानी कि तमिल इन सब में सबसे पुरानी लैंग्वेज है ऑफ द क्रिश्चियंस ईरा, यानी कि ईस्वी सन चल रहा है ना. ओके, सी से पहले की है वो. According to tradition, three literary gatherings and the sangams were held, at which many sages and the poets recited their compositions. They contained many themes like politics, war, and the love. The many of the sangams and the gathering were held, and in these the poets and the authors and the sages, they have recited their compositions, and they contained many themes like politics, war, love. And the famous work of this body of literature include the Itho to Koi, composition of 8 poems, the Tolakapiam, the grammar, and the Pattu Pattu, the 10 songs. Thiruvullar wrote a famous Kurai, which in the verse deals with the many aspects of rights, life, and the religions. These all are the belongs to the Tamil, Telugu, and the Kannada and the Malayalam languages. This all the literature. The Silpaddikaram and the Manimekhalai are some of the most famous work of early Tamil literature, and these all are the Tamil literature. Okay, it is written by the different writer, that Thiruvullar. Okay, now the medieval literature. So during the beginning of the medieval age in the North India, the language of literature was Sanskrit. During the beginning of the medieval age, यानी कि जब मध्य युग की शुरुआत हुई थी, so that time in the North India, द लैंग्वेज ऑफ लिटरेचर वॉज अ संस्कृत लैंग्वेज, यानी कि जो लिटरेचर की साहित्य की अगर कोई भाषा है तो दैट वॉज अ संस्कृत. सो द ग्रेट वर्क वेर कंपोज ड्यूरिंग दिस पीरियड वेर इन द संस्कृत. सो इस टाइम में जितना भी कंपोजिशन हुआ है, जितने भी लिटरेचर्स लिखे हैं, द नॉवेल, प्लेस, पोइट, all are written in the Sanskrit language. In this age, two great works were written in Kashmir. First was the Samdeva's Katha Sarit Sagar, and the second was Kalhan's Rajat Ragini. There are first historical book of India. So in this age, the two great works were written. In the Kashmir, the first was the Somdeva's Katha Sarit Sagar. Somdeva ने लिखा है कथा सरित सागर. And the second was Kalhan's Rajat Ragini. And there are the first historical books of India. और इतिहास के बारे में, हिस्ट्री के बारे में अगर जो कोई बुक लिखी गई है तो दैट इज बाय द सोमदेव एंड बाय द कलहन. बाय द सोमदेव कथा सरित सागर एंड बाय कलहन रजत रागिनी. Other famous work of this time is Geet Govind by Jaydev, which is one of the finest poems in the Sanskrit literature. And the Geet Govind is a very finest poems in the Sanskrit literature. While we are reciting this poem, it is also we get also pleasure. As we have said, this was the periods when the Aprabhams language had started developing into the modern Indian language. Aprabhams. Okay, now we are writing that Hindis and all, it is called the Aprabhams language. So in this also that language also started developing into the modern Indian language. One of the earliest work in the early form of Hindi was Prithviraj Raso or जो अपभ्रंश language, which was written in the Hindi, the work Prithviraj Raso by Chandra Bardai. That story and it is content included about the braveries of the Prithviraj Chauhan. Okay, this is book life about the Prithviraj Chauhan. The work, the marks beginning in Hindi literature deal with the heroic deeds of पृथ्वीराज चौहान, यानी कि पृथ्वीराज चौहान ने जो अपने हीरो जैसे काम किए थे उसके बारे में डिस्क्राइब किया हुआ है. इन दिस टाइम संस्कृत लिटरेचर मेड ग्रेट स्ट्राइड इन साउथ इंडिया. फॉर सम टाइम्स Jainism influenced Kannada literature, and the Jainism belongs towards influenced by the Kannada literature. Okay, the poet Pampa composed Adi Puran, and the Vikram Arjun Vijayant, the poet Ponna wrote Santi Puran, describing the life of 16th Jain Tirthakar. The poet Rana composed two books, namely Ajitnath Puran and the Gada Yudh. Okay, by the different poets have the written different poems in the Kannada literature also, who the Jain region was influenced by the Kannada literature. Okay, the Adi Puran, Vikram Vijayant, Santi Puran, Ajitnath Puran, and the Gadayuth. The poets, namely Pampa, Pona, and Rana, are known as the trio of early Kannada literature. These three poets, the Pampa, Ponna, and the Rana, Pampa, Ponna, and Rana. This trio were belongs to the, they were known as a trio of the अर्ली कन्नड़ लिटरेचर, यानी कि इन तीनों ने मिलके कन्नड़ में बहुत लिटरेचर लिखा है. द पोएट काम्भन composed Ramayana in Tamil language. Apart from this, other famous literary work were written in Tamil language. And the question can be asked in the exam, in the short, in the fill in the blank, in the true false, in the MCQ, that who has written the Ramayana in the Tamil language. So the poet Kamban composed the Ramayana in Tamil language. The development of Indian language and the compositions got a promotion in Delhi Sultanate, and after languages were get promoted, okay, and the composition also got promotion in the Delhi Sultanate. Two forms of Delhi language, Khadi Boli and Brij Bhasha. Okay, there was a two forms of Delhi language. दिल्ली में दो तरह की भाषा बोली जाती है. There was a Khadi Boli and a Brij Bhasha begin to be used for writing literature. Many devotional songs were composed in this language. Many heroic poems and stories were also composed in the Rajasthan. Khadi Boli and the Brij Bhasha were very prominent in the Delhi during the Sultanate era. Okay, and the many devotional songs, bhakti song, bhajan, kawali, kasida, these also were written in this language. And the many heroic poems also were written and composed in the Rajasthani language, that is called the Marwadi, which is similar to Hindi and Gujarati. Okay, that I was taught you in the class about Google Meet class that Marwadi is a mixture of the Hindi and the Gujarati. इन दोनों को मिक्स करके मारवाड़ी बनाई गई है. Okay, while you are listening this language, you will be get some taste of the Hindi and Gujarati too. Okay, so the heroic work like Allah, Udal, and Vissal Dev Raso were popular at that time. A book called Chandrayan, written by the Mullah Daud, is the oldest book in the Awadhi language. However, the critical appreciation of the ancient book was still written in the Sanskrit languages. We can see this critical appreciation, appreciations. Many of the books were written and after they were criticized, उनकी भी कुछ आलोचना हुई है बुक्स की भी. What is the return, what about the content? Okay, but they were appreciated too. Okay, the Persian was the language of court of Delhi Sultanate, and the Persian, that it was the language of the court of Delhi Sultanate. दिल्ली की जो सल्तनत की जो कोर्ट में थी वो पर्शियन लैंग्वेज में होती थी. So consequently many Persian words are seen in Indian language. Sometimes we also are speaking that Persian words, but we don't know, we are thinking these are the Indian words, but no, they are belongs to the Persian language. Okay, many historians emerge out during these periods. We get proper descriptions of Indian history through Turkish writer in Persian language. Ziauddin Burrani wrote the Tarikh-e-Firoz Shahi, which gives details account of region of Khilji and Tughlaq kings. Khilji, do you know the Khilji? That movie belongs to the Padmavat. Okay, the who plays the role of the villain is the Khilji. It is a real story. He also wrote a book on political theory called फतवा जहांगीरी. फतवा जहांगीरी यानी कि जहांगीर जो अपने ऑर्डर्स रिलीज करता था, and that orders were called the fatwas. So fatwa jahangir, this book also written. The most outstanding literary figure of this period was Amir Khusro. Amir Khusro in the ancient time, he was known as Toti-e-Hind. Sorry, Tuti-e-Hind. That Tuti means the parrot and the Hind means the India. यानी कि अमीर खुसरो को इंडिया का पोपट माना जाता था. Means while that popat, what is, do you know? Sometimes that we can teach to the popat all the language. He can, whatever we are saying, that he can repeat as it is. Okay, so Amir Khusro also, he was belongs to the other country, but while he came to the India and that time he was used these Indian languages also, and he has composed many of the literature. Okay, and he was a poet of historian, mystic, mystic saint, and the composer of music. He was also a disciple of Nizamuddin Aulia. यानी कि जो निजामुद्दीन औलिया है उनका वो स्टूडेंट्स था. He wrote Asikai, Asika, the Na, Sifa, and Kiratul Sadyan, the Khazani ul Fatah, and several other works of poetry. Took great pride of his being in India and praised India as the earthly paradise. Okay, and do you know that अमीर खुसरो हैज़ कंपेयर्ड द इंडिया टू द पैराडाइज, यानी कि इंडिया को उसने जन्नत बोला था. अर्थली पैराडाइज, पृथ्वी की वो जन्नत है. Can't imagine in the earlier time, in the ancient time, India was the golden sparrow, that Indian people were so prosperous in the comparison of the other world. दूसरे लोगों के कंपेरिजन इंडियंस बहुत prosperous थे. While Mughal also were state that time, Mughals were the richest kings in the world. So that means India was the richest country in the world. But while the Britishers were came to India and they were looted all the wealth and the treasury of the India, and they make their country prosperous. So he praised India's flora and the fauna. The flora and the fauna. Flora means the flower, flowers, vegetation, and fauna means the animal. It is a beauty, its buildings, its knowledge, and the learning. He strongly believed that in many respects, to essence of Hinduism resemble Islam, and he believed that many respect the essence of Hinduism resemble the Islam, यानी कि हिंदुइज्म में जितने भी अच्छे एसेंस है, okay, which we can give the respect, it is also resemble in Islam, यानी कि उसको भी इस्लाम में अपनाया गया है. He considered Hindalwali, the Hindi spoken around the region of Delhi, his mother tongue, and composed many verses in it. He composed verses in many languages. He wrote the number of bilingual quatrains and verses in the Hindi and the Persian. The healthy tradition started by him continued for centuries after him. Okay, the healthy tradition about the composition of the all the languages. Okay, not to criticize anything. Okay, he was also giving respect to the Hinduism also and the Islam also. So that is why he has started the healthy tradition. Okay, if we are belongs to the any religion, that means not, यानी कि जो कलाकार है, जो पोएट है, जो ऑथर है, उनका कोई धर्म नहीं है. They do not have any religion. They have to see the fact. The regional kings gave great impetus to the regional language and literature. Bhakti saint preached in the language of people. Many of them, like Kabir, were great poet. Bhojpuri and Audhi were the major dialect during these days. The works of the Kabir are chiefly composed in the Sadhu Khadi. Among them, Kabir's Doha were become a part of folklore. Malik Muhammad Jaisi wrote Padmavat in Audhi. There are many other poets of the Audhi in these periods. Okay, this Malik Muhammad Jaisi has written this Padmavat. Okay, and maybe the director has also taken the story from this book. Moreover, the well-known Ramcharitmanas by Tulsidas was written in Audhi. There were many other writers of Audhi languages. The Ramcharitmanas is written in Audhi language. Awadh belongs to the Awadh. Okay, these are all the writers. Okay, now students, here is the one most important. There is a given about the Kabir. If you are remember any Kabir's Doha you have studied in the previous classes, so write in the comment section and give me, so I will read it that you know. Or also you can write any two lines quoted by the any of these writers, authors or the poet. इन ये इस टैक्स में, इस लेसन्स में जितने भी राइटर्स और पोइट्स के नेम आए, उनमें से किसी भी एक की आप पोएम या कुछ भी हो आपको कमेंट सेक्शन में लिखने ही है. ओके, सो स्टूडेंट्स, हियर इज द about this. After this, literatures material is the over. In the next class I will talk to you the next topics. Okay, take care, bye bye.